Cognitive perspectives look at how we think, how we process information. So Piaget gave one of the cognitive perspectives that's most well known. He said that we learn about the world through manipulating things. Vygotsky, on the other hand, said that we learn about the world through our social interactions. So we learn about the world through interacting with other people. So Piaget said that we try to adapt any new information that we get. We have like these schemas in our mind, these ideas in our mind of what things are, and when we get new information, we try to adapt that into the schemas we already have. But if they don't fit, then we need to accommodate that information or assimilate that new information into what we already know. So say a child looks at a zebra and says horse, and the mother says, no, that's not a horse, honey, it's a zebra. That child then has to take that new information about what a zebra looks like and bring that into the information that they already have. Oh, stripes means it's not a horse, it's a zebra. So that's how we kind of, according to Piaget, that's how we learn new information. We have these schemas in our head of what things are, and then we're forever changing those schemas to best fit our experiences. So Piaget said that we go through 4 cognitive stages. The sentence that I use to remember that is smart people cook fish for Piaget. All right? And so the S stands for sensory motor, P, preoperative, C, child, F, formal. First stage is sensory motor. It's for infants. That's the stage that they are in. They're learning about the world through their senses, sensory. They're taking in information by putting like things in their mouth, keys, phones, whatever. They're always putting stuff in their mouth, as well as through their motor abilities. They're always getting into stuff. In infancy, they can't talk, they can't use symbols, they can't use language, but they are learning about the world through all their different senses, as well as getting into stuff, their motor abilities. Then preschool, we get into preoperative. Preoperative is the next stage. So there's there's lots of P words here. We have preschooler for preoperative, that they can finally pretend, they can use symbols, they can use language. So really language is just a symbol, right? When you see the letter C-A-T, it's a symbol for the animal with the pointy ears. So preoperative are preschoolers who can pretend. They think based on their own perspective, so they tend to be very egocentric. They see the world through their own point of view. They also use their perception rather than logic. So you can kind of mess with them a little bit when you take a cookie and you cut it in half, and then you're like, ooh, look, now you have 2 cookies. It's all based on their perception. It's not so much based on logic. They're not going to say, oh, well, it's the same size. They're just going to be kind of excited that they have 2 cookies now. So there are some flaws in the way that they think, but it is definitely better than the sensory motor. Then you have the C, and this should say concrete, not child. So concrete is the next stage, and that's school-age children. So now we're going on to the different C's. So concrete, operational, and this is school-age child that can conserve. They tend to be more logical, so you can't really mess with them anymore. They don't base their understanding of the world based on their perception. They think more logically, so you can't really, you're not going to be able to fool them with the, oh, now you have 2 cookies thing. They're going to go, it's the same amount. And then formal is the last stage, where it's some teens and adults. They can then think hypothetical and abstract, a little less of the here and now, and they can think about grand ideas and plan for the future and stuff like that. So how is Piaget and the information processing approach different? So Piaget says that we develop cognitively through different stages, whereas the information processing approach says that development is more continuous. It's we're kind of like a computer, and we keep adding information. We're just getting we are changing the amount of information we have rather than going through different stages. All right, so another perspective is context perspective, ecological theory, Bronfenbrenner's, evolutionary epigenetics. What these theories say, like Bronfenbrenner's, says that we need to look beyond the individual to understand human development fully. We need to look at the family, we need to look at the culture, and so on to fully understand the development of an individual. And then evolutionary epigenetics theory says, again, look beyond the individual. Development is an interaction between genes and the environment. We have to consider the context of the person. And the last part that I want to talk about with theories is a criticism of each theory. So some critics of Freud's will say that his theory lacked a diverse sample. Really, he saw middle to upper class white women during the Victorian era. So he didn't have a very diverse sample to formulate his theory based on. And he really didn't have much scientific data either. He didn't really test out his theories. He kind of just came up with his theory based on what he observed and what he felt was a good explanation. Now the learning, the behaviorism, as well as the observational learning, all that, a criticism of that is that there's too little emphasis on genetics and the way that we mature, kind of the stuff within us. So learning looks at behaviors outside of us, and a critic of the learning theory is going to say, hey, there's also stuff going on with our genes that are influence our development. We need to consider that as well. And then a criticism of Piaget is that he tended to underestimate the cognitive abilities of children. He tended to look at kids and say that their cognitive development was less than what it really is. So you'll see that there's even been additional stages added onto his cognitive theory because he kind of underestimated the cognitive abilities of people.